awake in the dark, and the fire has burnt down to embers. Outside the Whare, the house, the world is black. No streetlights, no glow on the horizon, no hum of traffic. Just the cold, the stars, and the slow breathing of your whānau asleep around you. You pull your cloak tighter, and somewhere in that darkness, an old voice is still talking. So what did your Tūpuna, your ancestors, actually do once the sun went down? For you, night is when the day ends. The screens go dark, the world switches off. You close your eyes and wait for morning to start your life again. But for the people of ancient Aotearoa, night was not the end of anything. It was the clock that everything else ran on. Here is the fact that should stop you cold. Your Tūpuna did not measure their lives in days. They measured them in nights. Think about it. When you count down to something, you still count sleeps. That habit is older than you know. For Māori, the night was the unit of time itself, and the calendar that governed it was written across the sky. The ethnographer Elsdon, who spent the early 20th century recording Mataronga Māori knowledge, from elders like the Tūho chief Tūtakanga Hau, noticed something that did not fit a European mind. Time was not kept by the sun, it was kept by the moon, night by night. Each night of the lunar month had its own name, its own personality, its own instructions. This system is called the Maramataka. The word means simply the turning of the moon. And it was not poetry. It was a survival manual. Some nights were named Tangaroa, after the Atua, the god of the sea, and on those nights the fish were said to bite. Some nights were Rakanui, the full moon, bright and high. And one night was Whiro, the new moon, the darkest night of the whole month, when the sky held no light at all. So what do you do on the darkest night of the month? If you are smart, and your Tūpuna were very, very smart, you go fishing, because the eel does not like the moon. Picture this. It is a moonless night beside a river. You are holding a torch of burning mighty wood, a hard timber that burns clean and bright, and the flame throws orange light across the black water. You are hunting tuna, the freshwater eel. The tuna is nocturnal. That word just means active at night. In daylight it hides, in darkness it hunts. And here is the clever part. On a bright full moon night, the eel's prey can see it coming, so the eel lies low and feeds little. But on a black, moonless night, a Whiro night, the eel comes out bold and hungry. So your torchlight is not only there to help you see. The light and the warmth and the disturbance draw the eels in toward you. You stand in the shallows with your trap or your spear, and the dark itself does half the work. Sure, a single good night's eeling could feed an entire whānau. Sweet as, and not by luck. Your Tūpuna had read the moon, chosen the right night, and turned the deepest darkness of the month into its very best fishing. That is the Maramataka working exactly as it was designed to. But night in old Aotearoa was never only work. Once the kai, the food, was caught and the fires were burning, something else began. In the long, dark evenings, especially through the colder winter, the people gathered close. And what unfolded around those fires was so important it carried its own name, Te Tapere, the house of entertainment. Forget the word house for a moment. The Whare Tapere was not always a building. That could be a meeting house, a stretch of beach, the foot of a great tree. What mattered was not the place, it was what happened there. There was kōrero ahi, stories told by the fire. There was waiata, song. There was haka, performed not only for war, but for welcome and for joy. There were taonga puoro, instruments of bone and wood and shell that breathed like the wind itself. And there were tākaro, games, riddles, tongue twisters you had to chant word perfect in a single breath, or lose. There were even karitao, carved wooden puppets about the size of your forearm, with jointed arms worked by hidden strings. Pull the strings just so, and the little figure would shiver and tremble its way into a haka of its own. Choice, right? A puppet show by firelight, 1,000 years before anyone had heard of electricity. But the Whare Tapere was never just fun. It was a school. Whispering. Every story told in that dark was a single thread of memory, and if it was not passed on tonight, it could be lost forever. This is the part we very nearly forgot. The scholar Te Ahukaramū Charles Royal spent years studying the Whare Tapere, because by the late 19th century it had almost vanished. The fires went cold, the stories went quiet. An entire institution of nighttime knowledge slipped right to the edge of memory before it was found and revived again. So when your Tūpuna sat in the dark and talked, they were not killing time. They were doing the most vital work a people without writing can do. They were keeping themselves alive inside story, whakapapa, the genealogies that told you who you were, and puorako, the ancestral histories, handed mouth to ear, night after night, generation after generation. And above all of it, the greatest text of all hung open every single night, the sky. Look up on a clear night in Aotearoa, far from any town, and you will see exactly what your Tūpuna saw, a sky completely flooded with stars. To them, this was no decoration. It was a map, a calendar, and a library all at once. The knowledge of it even had a name, Tātai Arorangi, the ordering of the heavens. The Māori astronomer Professor Rangi Mātāmua has recovered the names of more than 400 stars from Māori tradition. 400! Mental! These were not scattered, meaningless points of light. Certain stars told you when to plant, others told you when to harvest, and one cluster, rising in the cold sky just before dawn in the depths of winter, told you that the year itself had turned. You know it as the Pleiades. Your Tūpuna knew it as Matariki, and for some iwi, it was the bright star Puanga, which you call Rigel, that did the same work. When Matariki appeared low on the horizon, in the hour before sunrise, what astronomers call a heliacal rising, the first morning a star becomes visible again after weeks hidden, it marked the Māori New Year, a time to grieve those who had died, to feast, and to plan the season ahead. The new year did not begin at midnight on a page. It began with a star, in the dark, in the last hour before the sun. And there is one more reason the night ran so deep. In Māori understanding, before there was ever any light, there was te pō, the long, immense darkness out of which all things slowly came. The night sky itself is held to be Rangi Nui, the Sky Father, parted long ago from Papatuanuku, the Earth Mother, the stars scattered across his body, like the marks of an ancient grief. So to lie beneath those stars was never to lie beneath nothing. It was to lie inside a story far older than you, to feel your own small place in a whakapapa that ran from the earth to the sky to the very first night of all. So here is the thing your alarm clock never told you. Yeah, nah, the night was never the empty hours. For your Tūpuna, night was the busy part. It was when the eels ran and the fish came on to bite. It was when the stories were told and the tamariki learned who they were. It was when the calendar was read straight off the face of the moon and the new year climbed up with a star. The day belonged to the work of the body. The night belonged to the work of the soul. And you are not so far from them as you think. You still count sleeps to a birthday. You still feel something tug at you under a sky thick with stars. You still tell your truest stories late, when the lights are low and nobody wants to go to bed. But you check an app for the weather. They read the moon. You count the days to the weekend. They counted the nights to Matariki. The instinct is the very same one, only the screen has changed. Kia ora to that older way of seeing. So tonight, when the world goes dark and your fire, your phone, your lamp, your screen finally burns low, remember this. For your tūpuna, lying in the same dark, on the same islands, under the same turning moon, this was never the end of the day at all. This was when the day truly began.